It's so mild. What is going on? It's really weird because it's the 26th of October and it's 16, 17 degrees. I mean, the wind is warm, just unheard of this time of the year. So yeah, I've got quite a bit to do today actually, because I want to do some tidying up. Things have just gone bonkers in this mild weather. Like my nasturtiums have never looked so good for October ever before. It's as if they think it's spring again because there's just so much new growth. It's so lush and green, and that it's now taking over my beds. So I need to cut that back quite severely today, as well as do some strimming because my grass paths are starting to get quite long, and start a little bit of cutting back because I want to start to get my beds cleared before winter sets in so I can get some mulch down and start thinking about my plan for next year, because I might even be doing some direct seed sowing for the flowers that I'll be growing next year. Yeah, it's just so lush, it's really strange. After such a dry summer, everything's now had a really good dumping of rain. You know, we've had quite a lot of rain over the last week or so, and it's just bounced back into life. And now it's so mild, it just feels like we're having a second spring. And yeah, I mean, I can't get used to it, so Lord knows what the animals and the plants are thinking. So yeah, I think I'm going to start with a little bit of strimming today. There will be a tour, it's just going to be a little bit of me doing some work to start with because I need to crack on and do some jobs. So yeah, get strimming. I'm sure I only cut this grass maybe a fortnight ago, and look, it's already like 4 inches long again. And we've had so much rain that it's just shot up, and I want to make sure that I can get that a little bit lower before we have any more rain, because nobody likes trimming wet grass. The strimmer that I use is the Bosch battery powered strimmer, and yeah, I've had it for about 8-9 months now and it's great. One of the reasons why I love this strimmer so much is because you can turn it and do your edges as well. Let me show you. So just by pressing this button here, you can flip it over, so now it's upside down and I can get a nice neat edge. So now I'm here at the jungle of nasturtium, and it seems a shame, I know, to be cutting it back whilst it's, you know, quite late in the season and it brings a lot of greenery and some flowers. But what's going to happen is those flowers are going to set seed, and then next year this whole bed will be nasturtiums, and then that will creep into the neighbouring beds, and it's already become a bit of a weed. A very pretty one, but you know, I don't really want to be growing that much nasturtium next year, so I need to control this now before it sets seed. So I'm going to be cutting it right back to where it used to stay, which was where the carrot bed is. So it's actually grown right into 1.5 beds in just a matter of about a week or so. So yeah, nothing too technical here, just snipping it all away and pulling it back because I want to see a bare bed up to where the dahlias are. Let's see what we're working with. Ooh. Oh, we got a big one. Really? I actually can't quite believe how full that wheelbarrow is with just nasturtium alone. And they're going to come back next year no matter what. I mean, they're an annual, but they'll self-seed like crazy. And their seeds are all over the floor here. And I'm not going to pick up every single one because that's going to be impossible. But what I will do is just take out the majority of them, you know, as many as I can without taking too long, just to try and prevent it from getting a little bit too out of control next year. But come next year, I mean, when the seedlings do pop up in the ground inevitably, you know, they're so identifiable with that lovely little, such a happy little leaf, isn't it, the nasturtium leaf, especially when they're really small. And I'll probably just hoe them off, which will be the easiest way, because, you know, I just don't want them taking over next year, because my flower crop is going to be very important, because I'll be growing my wedding flowers. So yeah, I'm just taking a few of these away. Oh, there's lots over here. Well, that has taken a lot longer than I anticipated. So the light's already starting to dwindle. It's gone 5:30, I think. So I'm actually going to pack up for today, come back another day, and we'll carry on having a good tidy up and a bit of a catch up and a tour. So I shall see you very shortly. Good afternoon. It's another freakishly mild day today. I think it's about 19 degrees and it's Halloween tomorrow, or is that Monday? Yeah, it's balmy. It's really warm and sunny. We did have a good downpour of rain this morning though, and yesterday, so the ground's still very, very wet. I don't want to be treading on it too much or digging it at all, you know, to be honest, disturbing the soil. So I think today I'm just going to do a bit more tidying up, cutting back things like the cosmos and the sweet corn. I really want to get my bed sort of cleared and a bit more tidied up. And I also might harvest some beetroot because I really want to get that pickled before Christmas time, so that I can make some nice presents. So that can make a nice little video, which I may well do. So yeah, time to get ready and get cracking, I think. Oh, just looking around, I've got so much to do. Yeah, I best start get cracking on really. So over here we've got my cosmos plants, which have been blooming all summer long, and you know, they've really put out so many blooms and the bees have been all over them, but their time has come now. They pretty much stopped blooming. I have been deadheading them so often, and I've also been collecting the seed so I can grow my own next year without having to buy any seed. But it's time to cut them back now. They're not really going to bloom much anymore. And I'm using my loppers just because I've left my secateurs in the car. And yeah, so I'm just going to cut them back at ground level. And then this will feed my compost bin. But it is a good idea to actually cut them into multiple pieces so that I'm not going to lob all that straight into the bin, because that'll take a long time to break down. And by cutting it just at ground level, it means that all those roots are going to decompose into the soil, give the soil life something to munch on, and improve my soil health long term. There's this idea in gardening that come autumn, before winter, you've got to put the garden to bed, cut everything back, have everything looking really neat and tidy, and that's not really good for the wildlife, because they need places to hide and piles of leaves to, you know, seek shelter in. So I'm not one for getting everything looking absolutely immaculate, but at the same time I do need to get my beds emptied so that I can mulch it and prep it for next year. So I kind of go somewhere in the middle, and you know, places like my wildlife corner, I will leave that mostly until spring. And you know, just think about the wildlife as you're working. You know, I don't cut everything back, so I've actually got some quite tall parsnips that have gone to seed here and there, and I think they add great height and structure to the garden, so they're going to stay all winter long unless we have lots of heavy snow and frost and it brings them down. But you know, seed heads provide great shelter and places for insects to hibernate, such as your ladybirds. But these have been flopping all over the path, and I've already cut quite a few out, but unfortunately it's time to say goodbye to the cosmos. The grass I'm probably going to leave there so that it self-seeds everywhere, because I definitely want lots more of that next year. It actually feels really good to be doing some work on the allotment, because I've been quite under the weather for most of this month, to be honest. I had COVID and I also had a rotten cold, so I've not really been feeling up to it until now. Look at these weeds, honestly. With all this rain, it's made the weeds go nuts. And there was a ladybird on there, absolutely proving my point. Making me feel a little bit bad, but don't really want these thistles going to seed. There's just something that's super creepy about sweet corn plants that have dried up, that rustle in the wind. It really does creep me out a little bit. So these are definitely coming out, and I can plant this bed for next year. But with the sweet corn plants, I do tend to cut them about 5 inches above the soil, just to leave that stem for any critters that might want to hibernate inside it. They are quite a tough stem. Oh no! Whoops, that's my straw flower. Oh dear, getting a bit too hasty. Now that I've cleared most of the ground there, I'm actually going to turn that into a bramble pile, and what that is basically all of my clippings from spiky plants, things like my brambles, which run wild through the hedges and my allotment, and also there's a lot of sort of hedging rows in there, and obviously that's very, very thorny, and the best way of getting rid of it is either to dry it out and burn it, or take it to a council bin, or if you've got a shredder you need to chop it up really, really small, which I don't have. So my method of dealing with a lot of big prickly things is to dry it out as much as I can and then do a little bonfire. Not ideal, but it's the only way really that I can deal with the mass of prickly things. And obviously the smaller you cut them, then the quicker they will dry out and easier they are then to burn, and they won't create as much smoke. But yeah, it's this time of the year when you really see just how many weeds I actually have, because I don't actually do that much weeding throughout the year because of those red ants that I have, which means that come this time of the year, yeah, it's looking pretty wild. But I'm not ashamed of that. This is just what gardening is. And this is not my full-time job. And it's nice to have a pile that's separate of all the prickly bits, just so when you pick up other clippings, you're not going to spike yourself, because the thorns on these are really nasty. And obviously, when I do burn that pile, I'm not going to burn it as where it is, because that could put things like hedgehogs at risk that like to hibernate under that kind of material. So I have an incinerator bin that I'd move that into, so that I'm not going to burn any animals. Well, I'm having myself chocolate hobnob biscuit, one of my faves, because I think I'm about done for today. I've done a lot more clearing and it's getting there, but if I just chip away at it, you know, week by week, as I am now, then we should be in a good place, hopefully by about the end of December. You know, I don't like to overdo it. We've got the hedges to do. There's just so much to do. I think autumn, for me, is actually busier than spring. But the good thing is there's no rush. You know, we've got all winter long, so I'm not too worried. I just wanted to get a head start because I feel like I've not really made any progress over the last few weeks because of me being quite ill. So yeah, I think I'm going to finish my hobnob and we'll have a little look round, see what's still blooming, what crops I've got, maybe get some beetroot. And there's a lot of mushrooms and fungi growing as well, which is pretty cool because it's the sign of healthy soil. So yeah, I'll see you in a minute. Ooh, and the sun's still blooming. It's been such a nice day to do some work here on the plot. Over in my grandma's border, all the honesty went to seed that I collected. And I've actually been, I'm hoping to grow lots more of this next year. For the seed heads, and I've been looking around trying to spot any seedlings that are popping up, and sure enough, can you see that one there? That is an honesty seedling. They look a lot like sunflowers when they first come up, so I don't need to worry about not having any next year because these will grow, bloom and self-seed in 2023. Oh look, there's a hazelnut. Bet one of the squirrels has been munching on those. Yeah, so now is actually a good time to be sowing certain seeds, such as your honesty. So if you do want to grow any of that for next year, stick some seed in the ground and they'll soon come up. But also, another one I've noticed down here, can you tell what this one is? It looks a lot like, sort of like a carrot seedling. That is Nigella, or Love in a Mist, that self-seeded into my path with all the grass. But I probably will be sowing some more of those in this tunnel because they're not fully hardy. If we have a lot of snow this year or a severely cold winter, then they might not make it. But there's a lot of other ones in there, look, as well, which have all just self-seeded. I'm actually looking forward to giving that border there a really good tidy up and getting it mulched and maybe sowing some more honesty direct. But this border here, not that you can tell, did a little bit of moving of things and cutting back, and look what I spotted. I forgot that I actually put 2 squash plants in that border, and I've got 2 dinky little, I think this is honey bear squash plants, so these will be coming straight home. And they don't have any stem, which means I'll probably be using these quite soon because there is a good chance that that could rot from the top there. So yeah, lovely little 1 portion size squash. Look at that golden hour light though. I say golden hour, what time is it? Just gone 4 o'clock. And days are definitely getting shorter. Apple tree starting to drop its leaves now. Had a fantastic crop from that this year, and underneath we've got lots of tidying to do so that come winter I can see my hellebores. There they are. I know a lot of you were commenting about my willow in the other video, saying, oh no, has it died? No, it's just dried out a bit because willows love water. So I just trimmed it back and look, it's already bursting back into life. In the wildlife corner, look how much water's in my butt. We've had so much rain over the last couple of weeks. The wildlife corner is very wild. Lots of seed heads. Oh, I love it like this. I mean, I know it looks messy, but this is just what it's meant to be like for the wildlife, you know, lots of coverage, lots of places for hedgehogs to hide. You know, if you come down here, all the birds, they always hop in between here and then perch on these stalks before they have a drink from the bird bath. We've actually still got some salvia in bloom. Lots of thistles that I need to perhaps cut back before they self-seed. Yeah, all happy for the wildlife. As I say, I probably really won't do any tidying up in here until the worst of the winter's passed, just to give plenty of coverage for all the critters that need some shelter over the winter. Now, looking at the plot from this angle, it makes it look so tidy, and it's really, really not. Do I show you the back corner? You know I tend to show my plot warts and all because this is real life, and yeah, that back corner is really, really messy now. I've just got so many clippings to deal with, so many pots. I also need to sort out my compost bins, get some more stations set up over winter, and have a really, really good tidy up because that is not acceptable. It's just too messy, and I need to get it organised. So that's going to be a fun one to tackle one day. But look, we've still got dahlias, cafe au lait there. Over at the pond, I have actually put a little bit of a metal grid over the pond just to protect it in case I did have any predators, because I set up my wildlife camera one evening and I found that I have a cat that visits every night. So I really don't want him to take my remaining fish. I still have 4 in here, and they're doing absolutely fine. They did tend to slow down a bit when it got quite cool, but now it's warming up again, they're just darting all over the place. So yes, when I am here I do tend to take the grid off, but it's just a nice way of giving me peace of mind that that cat isn't going to take them out. And next to it, my beautiful ginkgo is putting on its autumn display. Bright yellow, buttery leaves, absolutely love them. So gorgeous. And I'm actually going to be pressing these for a little bit of a project, because I found these frames, glass frames for like pictures, that I'll be putting them on the wall, because I think that will look really, really pretty. Then I'll have one of my favourite trees permanently with me in leaf at home, but I might actually have to take some off the floor. Whoops, look at that. Such pretty leaf litter. My carrot bed is still covered for carrot root fly, and the carrots themselves are actually looking really good. Some are much bigger than others, but they are growing quite nicely. I haven't actually thinned them, which is why it's going to be a bit of a mixed selection when it comes to harvesting those. So all that nasturtium I've now pulled out, cut back, started to weed it. Not being too particular right now, just didn't want that nasturtium seeding everywhere. Still got dahlias over here as well. And down here is waltzing Matilda. Otherwise, these beds don't have too much growing in them now, apart from the flowers that you see. I've got, what have I got? In this bed here, I've got some parsnips and beetroot. So I'm going to harvest the beetroot now. The cosmos that flopped over, I'm not cutting these back yet because they're still absolutely covered in buds, and the bees will have a feast on them over the next few weeks. So yeah, it's not over for the cosmos. But it'd be nice to have my path back when they do go, because at the minute I cannot get to the Polytunnel that way at all. Well, I've now got my beetroot to harvest. They're all sort of scattered in here. I direct sowed them, and they've got nasturtiums growing around them. There's parsnips here that I need to be careful not to tread on. So they're all sort of intermingled, which I don't mind. It just makes harvesting them a little bit trickier. I can't even remember what varieties I sowed this year, but I always grow Moulin Rouge. That's one of my favourites because you get really nice foliage from it as well. But I think I also had some spare Cylindra, or what are they called? The cylindrical one. But I've not had good beetroot for a couple of years now, and I spotted these and I thought, oh my gosh. And they're actually a really good size. And there's certain people in my family that love pickled beetroot, particularly my dad. And he's not had any homemade pickled beetroot for a few years because I've not had any good beetroot. But this year looks pretty successful. So I'm going to harvest these, and then maybe tomorrow I'm going to pickle them. It's really important not to damage the top of that beetroot, because we don't want it to bleed out when we cook them and lose all that colour. Oh my gosh, these are such a good size though. You know what, I think I put the cylindrical ones on this side, in between where my beans grew, and they've hardly grown at all. Well, I think that's it for this side. I'm going to have a little look around the rest of the plot just to see if I've got any others that are ready for harvest. The problem with beetroot, if I leave mine in the ground for too long, is that the slugs start to come out in sort of late autumn, and they do nibble on the tops that sort of protrude from the ground. So I do like to harvest them before that happens. Although if you do leave them a bit longer and you do get a frost, that can help sort of sweeten the flavour a little bit. You can see I've got a few more here. I'm not quite sure how big they are though, because they're not above ground. That's not really usable. Well, there we go. I mean, it's not a massive harvest, but it's a harvest nonetheless, and I'm very, very pleased with my beetroots. So I'm going to get these home, and tomorrow get them pickled. So if you do want to find out how I do that, then let me know in the comments below, and I'll share a video. So yeah. All right, now that we've got them, let's just finish up the tour, have a look inside the polytunnel, and have a look what else is going on. But inside the tunnel, not much change in here from last month really. Ooh, let's have a look. So I brought more plants in, such as my little lime that's got flowers on. Have we got any limes? Oh, look, very, very tiny lime. Just because these don't really like it too cold. Not that our nights are getting particularly cold, we've still not had a frost. But they will be soon, so I'm just giving it a bit more protection to try and help those little limes along. And I've also brought in my sundew. These are the Cape sundews, so they're not used to cold temperatures either. But I've noticed that they've actually gone to flower, and now the seeds are ready. So whilst you're here, I might actually just do it. Something I've been planning to do. Take off one of these old spent flower heads. And you know how I've been growing them in these rocks that I drilled out? Well, I'm just going to sprinkle the seed on the surface and hope that I get more seedlings pop up next year. There we are. I didn't have a hand free, so I've just had to open the seed head, and look, that just looks like dust, but they're the seeds. And I'm just going to tip them onto the rock. There we go. I mean, it's going to do that naturally anyway if they hopefully burst open. But yeah, get some more little sundews hopefully. I don't think it will get too cold in here over the winter, but they aren't really frost hardy, so we'll just see how the winter goes. These were my little honesty test seedlings. I put some seeds in these pots just to see if they'll come up and when they'll come up. And sure enough, they're here, so now's a great time to be sowing them if you have them. And I've also brought in all of my pelargoniums, because they don't like it much below sort of 5 degrees. But I won't be bringing them indoors this year because my tunnel has a problem with spider mite, and I'm hoping that the cold is going to kill them all off. But as it stands, I'm not going to risk bringing spider mite into my houseplant collection at home, because I already had thrips there and that was not fun. Some salvias that I've potted up. This is called the Love and Wishes variety. This isn't fully hardy. They like to be kept a bit drier. They don't like to be in soggy soil. So I've brought them in here for the winter. And some wallflowers that I'm yet to plant, despite them flowering, which I should probably do because I don't know where they're going yet. I need to clear the bed space. So these will flower now and also in the springtime, and they'll look great with my tulips. And the chili plants, well, they're all looking very sad, but the Scotch bonnets on this plant are really starting to ripen now, and they're actually ready for harvest, so might as well take these home. Don't really have enough chilies for the chili sauces that I'd planned this year, which is a shame. These are going to be nice and spicy. But yeah, otherwise, you know, on my ghost chili that I was really looking forward to trying, I'm only now getting some buds. Although I did this before and they all fell off. So I don't think I'm really going to get any chilies from this. Even if they set fruit. Oh look, there's one on there. You know, we're going into November now. Chances are very slim. And look outside the tunnel. I've got lots of this popping up. I think that's coral fungus. I remember it popping up last year. I think it's where I put some logs. And obviously they're growing out of the old dead wood. But it's popping up everywhere and it just looks so cool. And just like coral, you can see how it gets its name. I know where there's some more fungi that I spotted earlier on. Growing in a table. Let me just show you real quick. I can't stop watching fungi videos. I don't collect them. I don't know much about them. I don't even eat mushrooms. I don't really like them. But I just think they're just so fascinating. Have a look at these ones. So this is just on my wooden little toadstool table. I've actually got my cyclamen up here, the one that I bought from Ashwood Nurseries early in the year. And we've got this growing all along it. Don't know what it is. I'm not even going to think about trying it, don't worry. But it looks all jelly-like. Looks kind of cool. Well, I think that's about all for today. I hope you haven't found my tidying up too boring. It's all I'm really going to be doing over the next few months, but I'll try and share some tips and tricks as I go, and if you're still interested, I'll still film it. So yeah, thanks for joining me. I'm going to head home now with my beetroot and my surprise squash. And yeah, think about what recipe I'm going to use for my pickled beetroot. So yes, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you real soon. Bye bye.